Stephanie and Lance Luthesser, owner of a 40-foot Nordhavn called StarPlath, and that has kind of a fun reason. Lance had been on a NOAA ship, I think we've said that before, and he loved Nordhavns because they were kind of shippy. And one day he came in right before Christmas and said, "You know you're getting old when the boat you were on was new and now it's decommissioned and they no longer make a Plath sextant." I was like, okay, big deal. So anyway, it was right at Christmas. I went on eBay. I found a Plath sextant, one about the same age as the one he would have used when he was in NOAA. And I bid for it. I got it. I gave it to him for Christmas. He was thrilled. About 3 days later, he came in and said, "Well, now we need a boat." And that's how StarPlath came about, named after the Plath sextant. So that was his boat.
Except now, of course, the electronics have improved greatly and you don't need a sextant anymore.
We have more equipment than he had on his 300-foot NOAA vessel. So, and we're not exactly over-equipped. We kind of kept it minimal.
No, we have a modestly equipped boat, and these days, when I was in the service, a super tanker wouldn't have had the electronic power that we have now, even on a small boat like this. So it makes it very, very user-friendly right now.
Friendly and safe. That's always my big contention. I want to be safe. And now, on our last trip to Mexico, the first trip down and back, they call it the Baja Bash because you can really get some weather going up and down. And this time we had, I don't know, the little USB wideband for Mexico has one called Banda Ancha, and we could get weather. We found out about the tsunami at 2 o'clock in the morning going by Cedros Island, and I was on watch. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm on the internet. I'm looking at the weather and the tsunami warnings, and so when Lance got off shift, I said, we were getting ready to go into Turtle Bay and anchor, and I said, "Is it safe? There's this huge tsunami coming." He goes, "Oh yeah," and he's an ocean engineer, so I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then he said, "But the weather's good, let's keep trucking," and we did, and later on we did find out there was damage in some of the marinas and coastal areas from the tsunami. But it's nice to have all these nice, easy, makes traveling so easy now.
In the aftermath of that tsunami, I mean the earthquake, I definitely have newfound respect for tsunamis. But that was an extraordinarily bad one. As things turned out, I don't think there was any problem in Turtle Bay, but the best place to be is out at sea, so we made the right choice.
Yeah, so we had good, safe information. In Mexico, we feel is safe. We've done it enough. We actually live in Rosarito. We travel back and forth all the time. Love Mexico, the people, the scenery, everything. So hopefully you cruisers thinking about Mexico,
come on down.
Come on down. It's great.
Since the last time we talked, we made a trip to La Paz, from Ensenada to La Paz and then back again. We did that trip in overall about 2 months. It was a real pleasant trip down and back. As Stephanie mentioned, we had great weather data the whole way, so we were able to avoid any high wind days. I don't think we had one high wind day the whole trip. It was interesting fueling up when we left Ensenada, taking on the modest amount of fuel for a trip of that length. There happened to be I think it was a 60-foot sport fishing boat getting fuel at the same time, and he was taking on, I think, 2,000 gallons.
Hi, we're in our galley, which I love. It's every bit as good as my one at home. Stove, propane, which we like. Some people like electric, but we like the gas. And appliances, because we have electricity, and we have microwave, refrigerator, and over there is a freezer. And trust me, I usually bring food back from our trips. I overstock them so much, and we have storage under the seats, tons of storage. So we always come back with more food than we leave with, which always is kind of strange. But anyway, we can fix anything we want in here. I have an oven, broiler. I like to cook, but we don't cook underway much because maybe sometimes I'm a little, it's too rough or whatever, so we don't like to cook underway. So all of us boaters that we meet along the way come up with recipes for freezing and microwaving while you're underway. And my latest comfort food is a really hard one. It's called macaroni and cheese. And I cook the macaroni in advance. When we're ready to eat it, put it in a bowl, throw 2 slabs of Velveeta in it, and nuke it, and 2 o'clock in the morning, best meal you're ever going to put in your mouth. It's real gourmet. And that's my dream one day, is to have the gourmet cooking show among all us boaters. So this would be my stage.
Here we are in StarPlath's engine room. This is a space you'll become pretty familiar with as you're out cruising. It's usual to make an engine room check at least once per watch, once every 3 or 4 hours. Some people recommend once an hour. Whatever you're comfortable with. The important thing is to keep a regular eye on the goings-on down here. The usual checkpoints on an engine room check are a quick check of your fuel gauges, just to see how you are in terms of fuel balance. A general once over to the engine to check to see if there are any leaks or anything that looks amiss. Checking the packing gland on the propeller shaft to check to see that the temperature and drip-off rate is correct. Those are the key items. Usually it doesn't take very long, just a couple of minutes down here, and then you're comfortable that everything is in good shape. The engine room in the Nordhavn is, as I think you can see, pretty spacious. This is a 40-foot boat, and this engine room is fairly commodious by 40-foot standards. It's easy to get around. As you can probably see here, the engine is accessible on all sides. I regularly do my own maintenance, and it's very easy to get at all the equipment on the engine. One item in particular that I would like to show that I find real handy, and it's an option that comes highly recommended, is the oil change system, which makes changing the oil on an engine that would otherwise be a pretty difficult chore. It makes it very, very simple. Some of the equipment here in the engine room, right here to my left, is a fire suppression system. If the temperature rises above the critical level in the engine room, this system automatically shuts down the ventilation to the engine room, shuts down the main engine, and fills the space with a fire suppressant chemical. So this is an important safety item. Immediately behind me is what's referred to as the wing engine, and the wing engine is an emergency propulsion unit in the event, pretty unlikely event, but in the event that the main engine fails, you have a complete separate unit here. It has its own running gear, its own shaft and propeller. It's a folding propeller that collapses under normal operation, so it doesn't create a lot of drag. And this little engine, a little 3-cylinder diesel, will push the boat at about 4 knots. Certainly a lot less than the main, but in an emergency you still have an ability to propel the boat. Over here is in this white sound enclosure to my right is the generator. This boat is equipped with an 8 kilowatt generator because there are certain items on the boat that number one require 120 volt electrical source, and also the battery charger that charges the house bank, it requires 120 volt as well. So that 8 kW will pretty much power everything on the boat, including air conditioning, which is a pretty heavy load. The fuel system on Nordhavn's is quite well thought out. This boat has two fuel tanks, port and starboard, behind these panels, mesh panels here. This boat holds 920 gallons of fuel in two 460-gallon tanks, and both of those tanks feed a center manifold by gravity. That manifold is located forward of where I'm sitting, and in turn the fuel from that manifold then goes to the various power equipment, the main engine, the generator. And you have control over the fuel source from each tank so that you can keep the boat in trim. And that's one of the chores that, as I mentioned earlier, that you keep track of when you check in the engine room, is to make sure that you're keeping a good balance of fuel, because you normally draw from only one tank at a time. Over here on the starboard side, you can see the return manifold from the fuel system, which gives you the ability to direct the returning fuel back to either one of the main fuel tanks or the center manifold. Also on the starboard side, next to the return fuel manifold, you can see the primary fuel filtration system, which again on this boat is very well thought out. It's a double element filter, such that you can switch from one to the other, and actually if you want to change filter cartridges on the one that's not in use while the engine is still running. So the fuel system on the boat is very well thought out. Here's a handy tool that I would recommend, that I would very highly recommend for use in the engine room. It's a little infrared heat sensor, and you can buy these things inexpensively all over. I think I got this one over the internet. But you can tell a great deal about the health of an engine just by taking some temperature measurements. First of all, to see that the overall temperature is within bounds. I will frequently come down here and I'll take this and I'll get a temperature reading at each each connection of the exhaust header, and a good healthy running engine will show very uniform temperature across each exhaust port. So that's one indicator, for example, that the engine is pretty healthy. You can take temperatures at the coolant tank to make sure that they're pretty close to what they should be. You can take a temperature reading on your oil pan to get a sense of what the oil temperature is. Very handy tool and useful in the engine room. We're in StarPlath's wheelhouse right now, and this is an example of a relatively simply equipped boat, but it has everything that you need. I'll go over the different electronics that we have. On this boat we just have one display that serves for both the radar and the chart plotter. So with both running, we split the screen, and you see half of it's the radar and half is the plotter. We have an autopilot that maintains course. You set your heading and it steers automatically for you. We have a GPS, keeps our location all the time, and a simple VHF radio over here for communication at a short distance. We do not have a single sideband long-range radio on this boat, although we do have a satellite phone that we can use to communicate anywhere. Simple controls, transmission forward and backward, throttle. This boat is equipped with a bow thruster, so we're able to maneuver the bow in close quarters. It's exclusively really for docking and tight quarter maneuvering, but with a single screw boat like this, it really helps close quarter maneuverability, because a single prop boat is a bit of a handful at times if you can't move the bow. So we are equipped with a bow thruster. Many of these boats have stern thrusters, we do not. haven't really found too many instances where we really would have wanted one either. So even though this boat is simply equipped, it has everything we need. We've cruised as far north as Alaska and as far south as Zihuatanejo, Mexico, and pretty much every place in between, and really haven't felt the need for a whole lot more equipment. If we cross an ocean someday, we'll probably get redundant radar and another chart plotter, but for right now, this is serving our needs just fine. It's a very comfortable wheelhouse. A lot of people look at the wheel here, the steering wheel, and say, gee, that's a peculiar item on a boat, and what the heck is this speed knob for? Well, trust me, once you use a wheel like this, you'll never want to go back to the old one, and the speed knob is great. I don't ever use it any other way. You can really put a lot of wheel in very quickly, go from hard over left to hard over right in an instant, and it's really nice for when you're docking and, again, close quarter maneuvering. It's a very handy deal. This is a great improvement, in my view, on the old style. That's about it. Well, we certainly hope you enjoyed our little tour of StarPlath. We enjoyed having you aboard. And now we're looking forward to our next adventure. By the way, what's that going to be?
Mexico, I bet. We like warm weather in Cerveza.
Yeah.
But maybe further. We keep still hoping to get further and further. But in the meantime, we're just enjoying it. And anybody thinking of one, good investment, surprisingly. We've lost money on our home in the last 3 years, and this one's held its course. We should have bought 5 of them. What can I say?
Yeah, but no. Please understand, we are not acting in the role of financial advisors.
That's true.
But certainly, it's turned out to be a prudent investment for us, particularly when you think of the value and the joy you get out of it. I mean, I think that's the most important part of what makes something a good investment, and it was certainly a good investment in our lives.
I agree.